morning. It's Wednesday, May 1st. It's 9:05 a.m. This is the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority monthly meeting. We'll call that meeting to order. Wade, Mr. Davis, do we have any letters of communication to the board?
There are a couple of things I'd like to bring to your attention. First and foremost, on the top of the packet is a letter from, or an email from council regarding St. Lawrence Factory Stores that you should look at your leisure. Also a follow-up from Congressman Owens and DOT regarding the STEP application, and various news articles that occurred during the period.
Approval of board minutes, minutes for meetings held on January 30th, 2013, and February 13th, 2013.
So moved.
Second. Moved. Doug, and Mr. Walker, second. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Do we have any comments or presentations for citizens right now? Nothing. Okay. Well, let's go right into staff reports to kind of hit highlights. I guess that's what we kind of talked about before. Or something you really want to elaborate into? Go right ahead.
Certainly. One correction. A meeting was canceled after I put the period report together. That's the second bullet item. You can just cross that right off. The Eastern Ontario Passenger Vehicle Survey meeting was canceled and will be rescheduled. Other highlights, we're still awaiting word on the staff application. The SLA 16 with GSA was negotiated. I've been working a lot on the website compliance page. I'd like to thank staff because there's a tremendous amount of documents we need to put online there. And we're about 70% of where we need to be at this point. The Port of Ogdensburg was recognized by St. Lawrence Seaway Development Corporation for the Pace Setter Award for the 2012 season. We've previously been awarded this in 2010 and 2005. We're nearly complete on a salt contract negotiation. That's an exciting contract that should have before us for next time. What it will do, it has the potential to turn a $2 million contract into a $3 million contract for us and change 2 salt ships into 6 or 7 salt ships per year. So it's an exciting opportunity. We're almost there, but the paperwork couldn't get here in time for today's meeting.
Any special preparation we have to do for the port for that extra tonnage space?
Well, we have the extra salt pad that's on the books right now. It's all engineered and ready to go. We'll look at our space needs, and if need be, we'll bring that before the facilities committee for approval for construction. At this point, probably next year's budget, I would think.
I know we talked about silos and where they fit into the scheme of things down there, so that we have space for all those type of things.
Absolutely. One thing that we have is we have a lot of space.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
As I mentioned in the facilities committee, there's been a lot of coordination to resolve outstanding property issues at the port. That's before the board today. Airport's been very busy on a number of different subjects, as you can see there. The industrial park, there's been a couple of offers extended in various projects, as you see before you. And I know I've talked with several of you with a variety of different issues throughout the month. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Wade. I got you next, John.
Mine was handed out separately, Sam.
Oh, is it? You want to go next? Okay. Where are you? You're doing this way.
Right there on the
There you are. Yeah, okay. By order, let's do that. Thanks for correcting me on that.
You're welcome. The year-end closing is almost done. We have been working hard to get that done. And with the help of a former employee who is here on loan from a local accounting firm, it's made all the difference in the world. That person is an excellent accountant, and and with the experience that she had last year has made all the difference in the world. So we should have our trial balance sent to the auditors by the end of the day, and by the end of the day today, or early tomorrow. And there'll still be a little bit of truing up between the bridge and the port, but we are in much better shape than we were a couple weeks ago.
The question I have is, we just hired a new person and she's on maternity leave.
Yeah.
And when she comes back, will you review everything, the process with her, so next year at this time,
Yes.
she will
Absolutely.
be up to speed and ready to go?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
obviously, we're very fortunate, we trained this other person and they allowed them to come back, and
Mhm.
that was pretty tough job. Appreciate the way you done that.
Do we still have the fill-in person working too?
Yes, yes. Mhm. That is the second bullet in the other, Michael Furry filling in while she's on maternity
He
leave.
was last week.
But moving that up a whole month made for a huge challenge. Normally, the auditors came either the last week in May or the first week in June, and, they're coming May sixth, which is a whole month, it's not a whole month, it's nearly a whole month ahead, and, it's been a real challenge to be ready for that. I completed the MWBE fourth quarter compliance report. We ended the year at 13.69%. Had a very strong fourth quarter at 49%.
You started at what percent, 1 or 2?
At the end of, we started at 1 or 2. At the end of the first quarter, though, we had 10%. Then second quarter 4%, third quarter 5%.
What will you say to us about that? I mean, we made maybe substantial steps forward, and obviously we're not there yet, but is that favorable enough for him?
I
Or
think
it's-
anything under 20% is not
Unacceptable.
favorable for
Well,
him.
no, I don't mean,
Yeah,
attitude. I just mean
I
what
think
attitude,
it
yeah.
makes a difference. We're not having, we're not being challenged on a regular basis to improve. I think they see the improvement. I have not received a gold star or.
no, I don't think
Um,
that, but I mean, our attitude is 100%.
Yes, yes.
And we sit here a year from now, we know that figure will be,
Mhm.
the way we're working things will be 20%,
Yes,
and then some maybe.
yes. I think we'll be able to make it.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll do our best to contract with MWBE.
Okay. So we
And I
want-
think it's on everyone's mind as
Good.
they are
Yeah.
developing contracts. Paris reporting is due June 30th. I believe that with the audit moved up and the audit presentation to you will be at the June meeting. I'll be able to do the Paris reporting with certified, accepted financials, and so I think that's gonna put us in a much better position with the Paris reporting. The only report that I have available is the airport report. I didn't think I would have any because April closed like 9 hours ago. But I did receive a report from Cape Air, which showed that our commuter passengers were 916 in April compared to 856 last year, increase of 7%.
That figure probably can't get any higher, can it? I mean, we're pretty, I don't know what the fill ratio is, whatever, but
I think the maximum we can get is like 96 or 9,800 passengers. Last year we had 5,600, so there's some room for growth.
there's some room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot, but some.
Fred, tell me, I see that you participated in the Greek Yogurt Conference. What did you get out of that?
Well, it was with the biggest manufacturer of Greek yogurt. We had, they are big in New York State. In fact, I, with my other hat, am going to tour a Chobani Greek yogurt plant in Chenango County later this month. But from that conference call, there was a part of the Greek yogurt prospectus that said that we could a manufacturer could market yogurt in Canada. The person on that call had direct involvement with a court decision That court decision said that, that company, or maybe any company, but that said their company could market yogurt in Canada as long as they had plans and were actively working on building a plant in Canada. So they could market yogurt in Canada to build up their business in
Build the market
support
up.
of their own plant that would be constructed somewhere in Canada. I believe that was either misunderstood or the decision when it was first rendered was stated in a way that was easy to misunderstand, that opened up the Canadian market. Our prospectus indicated that it opened up the Canadian market, and that was incorrect. It made a big difference, I believe, in our prospectus. So instead of having a market that was a big circle, it became a half circle. You know, so, right. I believe though that, you know, having been said about the prospectus was used in ways that generated some interest among other types of manufacturers. So all was not lost, but that part of that prospectus was incorrect. So that's what I got out of the call.
Well, I think also that in that call was they were not aware of that type of situation, and they were gonna look at other legislation that could change that. Not right now, but it'd take a while for that to change the dynamics of that situation.
Yeah, I believe that with the quota system they have in Canada, they protect their dairy industry market very, very carefully, very closely.
There's some interesting rules, what you can do, come over, go back, you can't do this, whatever. I mean, it's a variation of things that make it interesting.
It's interesting to know what you're up against, and that's why I wanted the press also to hear it, because they can do a follow-up story as how legislation and how different legislation is in Canada. You can build a market from here over there, but then you're gonna do this. And to do that, this is how you're gonna do it. It's unique in its own way, but if you think back 7 or 8 years ago, when we had the situation with the Toronto company was going to build the bulletproof vest for the military and et cetera, we had created like 400 jobs. And all of a sudden it went away, we ended up with less than that, and the Canadians lost the contract because of that particular issue. They were going to just use this as a, more or less a smaller scale, put it that way, and they were still gonna do most of the work in Canada. So it goes to show you how it goes around, comes around.
Well, you think back when we weren't allowed to go into that market whatsoever. I mean, that was hands off. So both countries have come a long, long ways, and you know, people have to decide in certain situations advantage for America, and sometimes advantage for Canada. It's just a matter of who's looking at what. So.
Yeah, we have content rules, and then Canada, like wind turbines, for example, they have a 20% content requirement, so there's been plants built up in Canada for manufacturing turbines, there's another example.
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
Yeah.
When you said how they protect their markets, it isn't for actual manufacturing, but even on a small scale on duty. My nieces come over to shop every weekend at Price Chopper in the stores over here. I believe they can bring 2 dozen eggs over, but on the 3rd dozen, the duty is equal to the difference what they paid to what a Canadian dozen of eggs are. So they're very protective of their poultry and their dairy markets.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Anything else, Fred?
No.
Okay. Thank you for that. John?
Yeah, I've been meeting with some grain companies up in Toronto. Productive meeting. We're now shipping into the United States because of last year's drought. There's demand for Canadian products in the area, so they do have interest in using the facility. It's just a matter of timing and when they can use it. I also met with an in-state grain and feed ingredient company. And they also have interest. They see it as a possibility for storage and distribution. So working with them, and then early May I'm meeting with a new player in the market that recently bought some mills in Watertown, Vermont, and they're huge in the south, actually Arizona, those areas. But they're expanding to the east market, and so we got our foot in the door, and they're coming here, and they're gonna tour the port, so. Hopefully something will come out of that. A lot of work's gone into preparing for a WIA. I do have some meetings set up, with some companies while we're down there. As you know, Morton signed their 5-year agreement, and, I've been talking to them as well as another salt company about, other opportunities that we're not serving right now. And, there's interest, and hopefully that'll spur them to go after some other, bid on some other contracts.
Excuse me, John.
Yep.
The specialty salt that we stored in, dry storage, do we have still more contract for that, or is this just a 1 year?
Yeah, it was a 2-year agreement,
Say it again?
it was a 2-year agreement.
Okay.
Yep. And, worked out great for them. They even, most of it went up to Canada. They had a little bit left over toward the end, so they sold some in the county here to try and, get into this market as well.
Okay,
Yeah, she's indicated that it worked out really well, and they'll be back next year.
excellent.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Well, you know, what's really neat though is you got these 5-year contracts, all of a sudden you say, all right, at least you know what your planning stages are for a lot of different things, so.
Yeah.
And we know they're coming, and that's
Yeah.
the best news. Excellent on that.
John, do you ever find like other salt companies or grain companies, are they all just the ones that you solicit, or do we ever get like the sort of the word of mouth, storage contracts or anything like, maybe related companies, or, I'm just wondering if somebody's so, you know, pleased with our facility and they'll.
Yeah, I think the word's gotten out about the facility, and, you know, like, I've met with Bungie, a number of times, and this last 9,000 tons that we got was a different division of Bungie, and they knew of our facility.
That's
I'd
what I
met this guy 2 years ago at a trade show, he had my business card, and it resulted in 9,000 tons. It was their biggest shipment, so I think the word's getting around.
That's great.
But the interesting thing is that, you know, I think they're all competing for the same market, and the market's only so big up here.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how much more growth there will be, even though there's different players. So, cause they will be, you know, there's only so many facilities up here, and depends if they use the rail and they wanna go farther south. I mean, that would certainly open up a bigger market for them.
Sure.
But if they're just delivering to Fulton or just the grain mills around here or distributors, then it's a limited market, so. On that note, there'll be 30 rail cars coming in, next month for Poulin for citrus pulp again. They're gonna continue that program that they do every year, so that's about 2,700 tons of
That's good.
citrus. Yeah.
I know it's not your line of work, but I know one of the issues that we talked about was calculating or accounting for the number of cars that come into the port. Is that something we're trying to work on, be more accurate with or something?
It's something we need to address specifically. There will be an issue before the railroad committee,
Okay,
in this regard.
okay.
John, I noticed, last week, were you done?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, I thought you were done.
White and Patterson, there's a new agreement on there. They aren't a big user, but they do use it for storage, and it's worked out great for them. It's helped them to grow their business in Canton. So just wanted to let you know I've done some outreach to Alcoa, just so you know that we're on top of that, as well as the prospective purchaser of the zinc mine, which is still active. On the economic development side, there's 2 companies, one a manufacturer and another one's in wood products, that we're aggressively working with the county and us to get them interested in sites, and that came through our RFP process. Had about 4 firms looking at space last month. The marketing committee met, and we're gonna focus on some ads in the Ottawa market and Ontario mailing and port mailing, as well as updating some of our brochures that need to be updated.
Now, one of the things that I'm trying to think of a committee that came out of, we talked briefly, I mean, just a question I asked was, when we started thinking about what's happened in this area, you know, give me I don't know if you have that off the top, whatever, but I know we had a peak number at one time, how many people were employed in the industrial park, and what that number is now.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on that.
Yeah, I know we talked about yesterday, I just wanna let the public know that, you know, those are type of things that's happened in this area. I know we struggle in this area, and, you know, those type of numbers that they sound negative, but we need to inform people exactly what's happened here and the economic, environment that we're into and how difficult it is. And I guess what I'm saying to is in regards to, I don't think publicly say here, whatever, the seriousness of the psych center losing, possibly what percentage of that facility or all, whatever, or danger of closing, whatever, so it tells you that the economic impact of all the things that are happening here is very, very, very difficult times. And we're struggling here as a port authority to do everything in our power to get all the jobs and situations we can to make it advantageous for this area. And it's, right now, we're faced with a real dilemma with the psych center, and, you know, we're supporting that 100% to do everything we can to, behind the scenes, to make sure that closure does not happen. So, let that be known. I mean, you know, out of your report, people need to know what's happening here. This is not good, not good. You know, I mean, I know we have a lot of favorable reports and things, that we're turning the corner, go the other direction, which we are. But we still let the public know that this is not good, not good.
Yeah, and even the broader numbers like unemployment, poverty rates, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
the North Country's got the highest unemployment numbers and, you know, and,
we need help.
Yeah.
We need help. I mean, you know, I'll use the quote that, you know, Mr. Carter had sometimes. You say, what's left over, we get. And, you know, obviously in economic times, there's nothing left over for us to grasp on or have any access to any extra monies, whatever. We've been lucky to get a lot of things that we've had come our way. I'm not saying that, you know, we're crying poor and those type of things, but really, in essence, difficult times are, could be coming maybe worse than we even thought of. I mean, you know, Wade and I, even personnel committee, we talk about, we fight for 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs wherever we can grab, and all of a sudden, somebody says you're gonna lose 3, 4, 500 jobs. That's very, very difficult to overcome, very difficult.
given the quality of care at this facility and the long, you know, the length of time that it's been here and the, you know, it's an outstanding facility, hopefully it'll turn into a center of excellence, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe the state will look at that rather than downsizing it.
Well, we're here to help whatever we can do, whatever we can do from our stage of, capability, so.
You know, one of the things, John, you mentioned something about Alcoa. And as you know, they're gonna do that expansion, they're gonna do a lot of other stuff down there. From what I understand, the, part of that cleanup down there that they're gonna do, most of that's gonna go out by rail. A tremendous amount of it's gonna be leaving the area by rail and taken to the areas where they're gonna dispose of it. And of course, there's gonna be some materials kept here, cause that's the way the feds and the DEC want it done. But I think it would behoove us to go back to your old file and just look at that. It goes back to Dan Duprey's days, when he tried to get the Alcoa to look at bringing the ore into our facility here. I think we need to revisit that and maybe work together as a group with Alcoa. Maybe we could get some ships to bring that up here and take our rail line and get it down to Messina, rather than having it drop down in Montreal where it is now, or Quebec, wherever it is, and put on
Yeah.
rail.
Yeah.
Where is it put on rail down there?
I think it's Baie-Cancourt or Contrecourt, and the reason why that's used is because it's deep draft. It's not seaway draft, so they can bring in larger vessels, and yeah, they've got all the facilities for it in terms of conveyors and all that kind of stuff. And I think, yeah, it was explored years ago, and when we met with them, probably, what was it, Wade, a year or two ago?
Probably 2 years ago now.
Yeah, I did look into that, and
Like you said, though, it wouldn't hurt to ring their bell again, because
no,
they are gonna go ahead with that expansion, you know,
Yeah.
$1 billion expansion there. So maybe it's a good opportunity just to ring the bell again on,
yeah,
I mean, we could do that.
We'll
And
look
they-
into it again and see what we can do.
Do they own their own cars? I think they do.
Don't know the answer.
Yeah, that's some of the important part of it. I just wanted to mention it.
Well, along that line, I have a friend in Houston, Texas, and he's involved with a major titanium dioxide importer from Europe. And their port of entry is Montreal. And they said, why don't you come into America? And the rules of the duties and the tariffs are different. So it's more advantageous to dock it there, unload it there. Like you said, put it on the railroad cars, and it's a different set of rules, do it the other way, whatever. It's so much cheaper for them to dock there. So you say, all right, what's the competitive market? He said, I'd love to come to Ogdensburg. I said, we could do a great job here, you know, and supply a whole bunch of stuff. But he said the cost factor is so much different. So, but, that being said, look at it anyways, and see exactly what, you know, what's out there, cause that's local stuff. So, okay, all done? All done. Well, any other questions for John? We gotta do Steve's report.
I'll pitch it for Steve. Again, he sends his apologies. We've got an FAA inspection that went on yesterday morning, last night, and again today. Everything so far is going well, knock on wood. And we'll be able to provide an update at the next facilities meeting, in executive session, of course, because it is the airport security and those type items. Been a very busy month from Steve's perspective. There's been a lot of spring cleaning going on in the building parking lots, so on and so forth. There's been a lot of project work that Steve's assisted with in terms of conceptual drawings for the industrial park expansion, client promotion, that type of thing. Bridge washing is underway. He also participated in a bridge authorities meeting in Albany and learned quite a few interesting things, including some things about cables that we'll share with you on that, because there's some very interesting non-technical explanation of cables, and that's something that we should be looking at and familiar with. Steve's performed a lot of work relative to the airport this month. Everything from revisions to the airport security plan, prepping for the FAA annual inspection, and some work on the runway project, which is currently waiting FAA approval. 2 members of staff have also completed their annual ARF firefighting refresher training, and he's had several meetings and with airport engineers and other engineers and various folks regarding future project development at the airport. The port's been extremely busy. The road salt, 126,000 tons shipped out to date. A lot of grain activity, as you see listed there. He's working with new customers, interfacing on potential customers, and it has just been a very busy all-around month. Be happy to answer any questions as best I can, and if I can't answer those, we'll follow up with you separately on that.
Does busy mean profit?
Well, once April is closed, we'll have a much better idea.
Okay.
We believe that to be the case.
Okay.
But
All right, thanks for doing that for me. Okay, committee reports. Yesterday we had 2 committees meeting, marketing and governance, and this morning we had facilities, so, Doug, you wanna give us just a little brief?
Yep. You heard the discussion on Greek yogurt perspectives, and as John mentioned, we did have a couple of inquiries out of that perspectives, so which has been mentioned already, which is good. His upcoming marketing strategies is spring mailing, and he's also gonna work on the development and printing of those new marketing materials that we need. And you know, under the upcoming marketing and outreach, I understand that John and Wade and you and Fred will be going to Chicago to the wind power, and we expect you to come back with a signed contract for the future.
Yeah,
I
no
got it in my
pressure.
file.
No pressure.
I just gotta get somebody to sign it.
I'll get a signature for something, I don't know what you're gonna
You
say.
might have to sign it, John.
Worst comes to worst.
Well, regards to that, I mean, it's interesting because John and I attended last year, and I forgot what the business situation was, or who could attend, whatever, but it was quite amazing to see exactly what the energy of wind power was at that point in time, and the projects that were going on. I mean, there was a lot of deals being made, there were a lot of deals being made and things going back forward, but obviously when the tax relief changed, it kind of took the projects, off the map, whatever. I know I met a lot of interesting people last year with John, and, I look forward to go back and, meet with those people and see exactly what's next up there for us. I mean, it looks like you said, John, it doesn't look like anything in the near future, but I guess you have to, get out there and find out exactly what's coming next. The new technology type of things, I mean, we're not in the wind turbine business, we're in the port business, but still knowing exactly how that industry works is very advantageous for us too, and that's why we attend. So, anything else, Doug? I'm sorry.
That's it.
Okay. Steve, you wanna give us a little synopsis of the governance committee yesterday?
The governance committee met yesterday. We had 5 items on the agenda. We will be bringing 4 of them to the full board here. And also the finance committee reviewed the financial reports and have no questions. So both things went very well.
Okay, thank you for that. Fred, you wanna give us a little brief this morning of?
Well, we've got a couple of agenda items on the facility committee, is the duty-free and, of course, the surplus property thing, and it's in the regular minutes, and it's been approved for the full board, so that's all I have at this time.
Okay, excellent. Any unfinished business, Wade, that we have out there that?
No, there's not.
Nothing, okay.
Nothing held over from last time.
Okay, I see your schedule Wednesday, June 5th. I know that was a tentative date in a way, does that still work for everybody?
What is it, a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Wednesday's bad for me, but remember I told you there was another meeting that, that's the first Wednesday in June, right?
So if you just look at that list, every one of them is a Wednesday.
Yeah, I see that.
Do you wanna go to the 12th?
It's still Wednesday.
Well, either
No,
that
no,
or
no,
that.
but I mean, your
What
schedule.
about the next day? Or the day, Tuesday or Thursday? Wednesday's the meeting for me, but you're gonna have it in the morning?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay.
As long as we have it in the morning, I can get to the other meeting.
We else have a problem?
I would suggest, can we do a facilities committee if we needed at 8 o'clock, board meeting at 9?
That's fine.
Does that work?
Yep.
I was here on time this morning, Wade, at 8:30. Now you're turning around and going back to 8, I'll be late.
Well, if we have other items, I mean, in this case, we'll shorten it up to 8:30, and if we have a lot of items, we'll back it up to 8.
Just breaking. Just wanna tell you I was on time. Don was here early.
I was here.
I was here. Okay, that's a go. 8,
Yeah, I forgot it
well,
was.
I guess really for that facilities part, Wade, if it looks like it's a short end, 8:30, if it's not, you think we need more time scheduled for 8, I guess that's.
8's all right.
8's okay? All right, we'll go with it then. Can't help you.
I know. I just
Okay,
wanted to tell you I was on time.
Let's go with our business items. Wade, I'll let you take it through this.
Sure. We've got a couple items here today. The first up is a use permit for a new softball and co-ed softball league. Typically, you don't see these anymore if they're repeat use permits, but this is a new organization that's looking to utilize the field. It does require proof of appropriate insurance and the $150 security deposit for cleanup.
That says baseball? Is it baseball or softball?
Softball.
Okay, the thing says baseball. Oh, okay, the regular says softball.
I'll move it.
All right, motion moved by Doug, Steve second. Further questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Turn on the ayes, thank you.
Okay, the second item on page 9 is agenda item A2. It's approval of a supplemental lease agreement with Dr. Carol Griffith and Harold Lambert at the rates, terms, and conditions you see before you, including the increased percentage that was requested beyond all agreements. And the map is on page 10 that shows the location.
Question I have in building one, all those office space, so I think we have a couple offices over there already, in
Yes.
building one. Is there a priority to come to this building for a particular reason, why we couldn't send them over there, vice versa?
Oh, this is a renewal?
No, but I'm just saying
Opposed
is,
to-
you know, if we don't, you know,
I've had a couple people look at offices and they prefer this building because there's other people here, whereas over there it's a big open
Okay.
space and, you know, there aren't other people working and, you know, if there's,
they just wanna feel the energy here, there's something.
Yeah.
Okay, there's
Yeah.
life here, right?
yeah,
There's life going on over there, there's not, okay, that's interesting, you
yeah.
know. But I think what, you know, what Wade was doing was, is to try to, market that building in, you know, like a business mall, where you had, you know, when you start filling those offices up, all of a sudden you say, okay, then all of a sudden other things happen there, or whatever. I'm not saying that should be the push, but need something to look at, that, you know, more people start moving over there, next thing you know, they get, you know,
Yeah.
you know, okay.
Yeah, it's almost functioning as a business incubator, it just doesn't have the services that an incubator would provide. That's not to say that it couldn't at some point in time, so.
Yeah.
It's kinda laid out that way, it's interesting, cause there's offices all up front and the back's wide open, so you get someone that needs an office, then you need someone in the back that's distributing or manufacturing or whatever, so.
Yeah.
That may be what it evolves into.
Good. Need a motion?
I'll make that
Mona?
motion.
Second?
Second.
Second, John? Any comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next two agenda items are similar in nature, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version here. Each January, you recall that we do our special appointments to various things, MWBE coordinator, procurement officer, so on and so forth, the list goes on. One of the things that we need to do, there's a new requirement out there on page 11, that we appoint a data coordinator. We don't know exactly what that is yet because the state hasn't defined it, but we're requested to create one. The other thing is on page 12, it's a different agenda item, but a similar thing, the ethics officer. Right now, by statute, I am the ethics officer, but we need to officially appoint that. So these are both housekeeping type issues that have been run through the governance committee for approval.
Since it's,
I make a motion to approve the two issues.
Second.
the only question I have is, could this responsibility fall onto somebody else after you know exactly what this all means, or is that something you feel belongs in your title?
What we're doing right now is as these new things are coming up, Fred's getting one, I'm getting the other, you know, bing,
Okay.
bang, boom, that's how we're
Are you
doing
certain
this.
that-
Some of these things have a lot of work attached with them, some are just
Okay.
minor, I don't mean minimize it, but some things haven't been developed yet.
You feel you got nothing to do, right?
We will comply with all
Comply
aspects
with
of
it.
the
Yeah.
policy.
That's what it is, that's it. Well,
Are we taking these one at a time or both at one time?
one at a time for both.
I made a motion for both of them, they're both the same thing.
All right, I need a second for that.
You did, I did.
That's, I'm
Okay.
sorry, yep.
I just wanted to make sure what we were voting on, not that it was an issue, but I didn't wanna do two things if we only had to do one.
Okay,
Who made the second, Don or Doug?
Doug,
Doug.
Doug
Doug
did.
did, okay.
okay.
I think it's interesting with the data coordinator that you have an appointment and you don't have any job spec. You don't even know what you're supposed to do.
And
We can
Don,
find out,
the funniest part is it's about transparency, and that's the organization that should have more transparency at the state level, so we know what the hell they're doing most of the time, which we don't. We don't know what they come out with these things, they come out of a closet. And it goes like this,
Yeah.
here we, do the designation, but we'll tell you later what he's supposed to, how do you do that? Or why do you do it? Hopefully it's not, we have to employ somebody else that actually has to do data, whatever it's supposed to do.
Yeah,
And we haven't planned on it, it's not in your budget.
if it turns into something, it could be a job. I mean, you wouldn't have time or, whatever, you'd have to hire for it, whatever, even ethics officer. Big organization, you would probably have to hire somebody.
But you don't know what he's supposed to do, so how do you know, what if you have to? There's only so many people we got that can do the work we have here now.
I asked the same question at the committee meeting on the ethics. Does it comply to the ethic rules that's already established by the ethics people? If that person that we're appointing to that position, does it fall under the New York State ethic rules? If you read their policies and what they've got, if that's so, I want the job. If you read how much these guys make, that 21 people on that committee.
Yeah.
They're all paid, but Wade has assured me that doesn't happen here, and we're not gonna.
You enforce your own local ethics law.
Right, but if he was chosen by the governor or whoever, the ethics people, to sit on a case in New York City, who's gonna pay for those expenses and stuff? That should fall under what I'm saying, under the New York State ethics policy.
It just means, Fred will be working twice as hard because there'll be nobody here to help out.
How I envision this happening is, again, I won't be called on to serve anywhere else, but what'll happen is we'll get a directive from either governor's office, ABO, or one of the other agencies to put an ethics policy in place, just like we got a directive a while ago to get the domestic violence policy in place. That's where we appointed the domestic violence coordinator, then they developed the plan and said, here's what you need to do. And that's relevant because there's further down, you'll see something related to that.
Okay, I have a second, and we're gonna vote on both resolutions. Any more comments? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, both passed.
Note to staff on these two issues, please make sure that these are included in the January listing. Thank you. Next up is agenda item A5 on page 13. This is an electronic sign installation by Duty Free Americas. That's a duty-free shop. What they wanted to do is they want to install a 4-foot by 8-foot electronic sign adjacent to the flag poles at their facility for display for their use. You can see a bad photocopy of that on page 14. I apologize, our color copier was broken at the time the document went out. But that's basically what it looks like. And you can see its location on page 15, adjacent to the flagpole. This is, will be installed at their expense, in compliance with all codes, and they're responsible for the electricity maintenance and all that other good stuff associated with that sign.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Just one question very quickly. This is for promoting their own business only.
That's correct. This is their proprietary sign.
And since, like, we have to have some sort of a policy for ours, is that same policy going to cover this, or are they going to have their own? But this is only advertising for their business only.
This is their business
They
sign
can't
only.
promote the boat races, they can't promote local, they can't do any of that stuff. Their business only.
Oh,
This is their proprietary sign.
yeah.
It's governed by
That's
their
it.
policy,
That's all.
They're responsible for what they put on the sign, they're just basically in charge of it. We have no control over that sign at all. We don't want no responsibility for that sign at all.
You don't wanna
I
establish a
just
policy.
want to know
No.
what is going on the sign. It says specifically here promoting their business.
Right.
that's correct.
Okay.
Well, they can sell that sign promoting their business because they're
Well-
making business with business.
Well, just,
Stop and think what some of these
But they have the
signs
right to do
can
what they wanna
turn
do. We're just-
into. That's, I just wanna make sure what I'm voting on. That they're promoting their business, period.
But, in essence to that, they could do whatever, if they wanna advertise for somebody, they could, right?
they could
Without our
advertise,
control.
if they
Proprietary
could advertise,
sign,
for
that
instance, hypothetically, you buy 2 bottles of XYZ, you can get a discount at the golf course in Prescott for $30 off. So, you know, that's their thing, you know, we don't want any
No,
responsibility of
no,
that.
but I understand what Steve's saying, I mean.
But that's
you
their
know,
business, right? They should be
Yes.
able to promote that.
I don't have a problem promoting their business.
I think what Steve is saying,
I
he doesn't
just
want them
want you-
selling space.
I don't want them selling space.
The same issues that we talked about on our sign, right, that's, yeah, that we were worried about,
I think there's a big difference between our sign and a business sign.
yeah.
Our sign, as being a public authority, you have to control the content. Actually, you want to control the content because the content is your face. You let it go on your sign, you're responsible. We're not, if we're just passing the sign thing, say you can put up a sign, I don't think we have governance over their sign content or responsibility for what they say. Now, there's rules that they could violate. They may violate New York state law, depending on what they put up there.
It's their
Who
problem.
knows? But it's gonna be their problem, and somebody will
It's their
bring it to their attention.
It's no different than the billboards out here by farm tractor, no difference.
I understand Steve's point. I just don't know how we don't wanna get into the control aspect. I mean, you
Well,
can't write those
I think
regs.
what Steve was, I mean, you start to open this up a little bit, and you say, all right, you have a sign that you're advertising in the way you're using your sign to advertise, and you're not selling spots for, eat at McDonald's, whatever, or somebody come advertise your sign, but here's a sign 100 yards down the road, and they're saying, eat at McDonald's or whatever they wanna do, they can advertise different than we can advertise. We're allowing them to advertise the way they wanna advertise and use that sign. We don't advertise to make money off it, we're providing a service. They could utilize that sign and make money with it. Because somebody could come to them and say, all right, I wanna use, I can't go to the bridge and port, but I can go down here because people come across the bridge. But they're kinda getting business that's stopping going that way.
Not
So
for-
people,
Exactly.
so I'm not sure exactly that's a one-way sign, it's just a one-way sign, Wade, that you know of?
Right.
I
It's
believe
going-
this is just strictly one direction.
Alright, so
You
they're,
couldn't
so
see it
they're really
otherwise.
not doing anything to us, per se, if you think about it, they're going, the traffic's going that way, and we're doing traffic both ways, you know, whatever we're trying to advertise.
I think
So-
that's what they're trying to do is just. they're
I think
very
we gotta
good-
get people to stop there.
They're a very good tenant as
Yeah.
far as,
Yeah,
We're
You're not gonna
concerned.
advertise eat at Joe's in
they
Ogdensburg,
they
because you
really
can't
wanna
turn
get
around and go
people
to
to
Joe's
stop
in
in,
Ogdensburg.
because there are things that you don't even
Yeah.
know that they sell. I've stopped at the one on the way over.
Yeah.
You walk in and you see this, and this one's half price, and
Well, we
Yeah.
wanna help their business, so I mean, that's
My-
obviously,
My issue is just very simply that we need to talk about what the sign is for. I'm for this and I'm going to vote for it. But I wanted to at least bring that to everybody's attention, that once we approve this sign, then you don't have control over those other factors, that's all.
I'm gonna call for the vote.
okay, any more further comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, guys. Any discussion?
Okay, agenda item A6 over on page 16 contains a couple of things. The first thing I needed to do is open to page 26 and just draw a line through it. 26 is not included in this. There's a couple of things that we need to talk about here on agenda item A6, approval of policies. The first is the data coordinator and ethics coordinator. We just took care of the two previous resolutions, those two bullets that come off there. The first is the domestic violence prevention program, and the second is the smoking policy. For the workplace violence prevention program, you recall we appointed a domestic violence coordinator because we were required to under state law. And the Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence rolled out a sample policy. We adapted our existing policy and the sample policy back in November, December of last year. We approved that as an interim measure. The policy went to the Office of Prevention of Domestic Violence, and it came back with some changes, minor changes associated with it. We had a couple back and forth, and this is the final version. It is not substantially different from what was originally approved by the board, but now that we have received everything by the appropriate deadlines, we need to act and formally adopt this policy. That was discussed with the governance committee and was approved at the governance committee level and brought before the board. The second part of this policy update is on page 27. This is the smoke-free workplace policy here at the authority. A couple of notes on this. On page 27, you see exactly what the existing policy is. Page 28 through 32 is the New York State regulation of smoking in public and workplaces. That's the policy, the state version that we need to comply with. The thing that the authority has control over is essentially that second paragraph on page 27. We need to comply with the state policy, that's the first paragraph. And the second policy says, how far do you smoke within distance of the authority entrances? That in 2010 was set at 25 feet. This policy is back before the governance committee and also the board for two reasons. A, it's been a while since we've looked at it, and B, this gives you an opportunity, if you so choose, to change the number of feet from the entrances.
The thing I question, we met and we discussed this at great extent yesterday. I think about it, the state of New York said, let's see, they do have the power to say to us, there's no smoking whatsoever on all our property. Could they say?
They could, they would have to change that regulation that is on page 28.
Okay. They have the power to do that.
Absolutely.
Why, I guess the question I have is, the state, obviously they have the power to say whatever they wish to say. I work in a state facility, and the rule there is no smoking whatsoever on their property there. And I wonder why it's different in different areas, that the state has different rules for why it is. Not that I wanna change the rule here, but I'm just saying, why is there a difference? You know, Frank, why?
Well, I know schools are treated differently because of young people, the influence of seeing older people smoke. It may be the same way as some other facilities. You gotta remember, we're not just state employees here. Actually, we're the smallest group of people at our facilities. There's an awful lot of non-related people, but on state land we control. And the state doesn't wanna get into, I think, controlling what they do on their part of the property, to a degree.
Yeah.
They can make, if they're open to the public, they can make their buildings smoke-free, but they're not gonna try to control, the employee behavior outside of the building.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's a difference in the type of facilities you're talking about. Schools, 100%. My wife's a smoker on, BOCES, and you gotta get in your car and leave the property. That's it, there's no smoking. And that's because of young kids. And I think here we're treated differently than, say, a school or a state hospital, because they're all state employees and patients. Here, we're state employees, plus a lot of people we rent to that are not state employees. They can't smoke in our building.
Could we adopt a policy here within the confines of the rules where it says no smoking in this building area?
I think it's already governed. You can't smoke in this building.
Area, I mean, I'm talking about eliminate the 25 feet whatsoever.
That could be a detriment to your ability to rent to certain people. Certain people do
Okay,
smoke.
So
I just don't know.
Okay.
I think,
Well, I'm fine whatever
if
it
it
is, but
becomes
the
an
question is,
inconvenience where you got 40 people out there all smoking at the same time, move the line back. You can change that anytime. Anytime you can bring it up to the governance committee and they can look at the policy, look, it's becoming a problem, there's 10 people out there at 10:15 every day smoking. We want 50 feet away from the building.
Well, I think it, would be easier for us if we pass this resolution. I was concerned about the 25 feet that's in here, but I'd just like to have us comply with the rules and regulations and also add section 3 to our resolution. And that answers the question, we ain't gotta argue about it anymore. On page 29, addressing your issue. You just adopt what the state says,
100 feet of the entrance.
that's it. That's what theirs is, and that's what you mean.
100 feet?
That's what it says. So just, huh?
That's for schools.
What?
That's for schools.
Well, whatever. It's still part of the rules and regulations. We wanna make it 100 feet, that's what we'll make it.
So we could change, if it's the pleasure of the board, we could change that number on page 27 from 25 feet to 100 feet.
That's
So
it.
That would get us the same place.
How would you designate that? Would you put a spot so they know exactly where you're gonna be able to,
I think you should put
On
a
the other
spot
side of
up
the
that says
parking
smoking area,
huh?
We talked about that at the governance committee too, the possible designated.
so nobody has to go out with their tape measure, I'm 100 feet from the building.
Well, that's what I thought, because you can't, there's no smoking in behind here. There's fumes out here, there's gas out here, and everything, we know that, 100 feet rule around here. So if you go 100 feet, if you wanna put a thing over here and saying this is a smoking area, put a sign over there saying it's a smoking area. But most of the people are probably gonna do like they do at the schools, they're gonna go park their car in the city street, along the city streets, and go out and smoke in that car. At Bolsey's up here, there's 25 every break across the road by Aldi's,
Yeah.
but they're standing in the roadway.
I prefer them to stand in a safer area than the road.
Yeah, that's where they're standing though, really.
Yeah.
You'll see it when you go home today.
I just think if you're gonna do 100 feet, it'd be good just to put up, some kind of indication this is a smoking area. So that people know this is where we have to go.
I agree with you.
It's not that expensive.
With those
Yeah, I
two
mean,
discussions, I
that's a
make a
sign.
motion to approve the resolution as it is.
With a 100-foot modification.
Um,
Go ahead.
I'm just kinda thinking here, right? You, 100 foot from this building,
Yeah,
you take
parking
on the other side
Yeah,
of
right
that
on the edge of the
parking
side,
lot.
of this parking lot out there.
Other side of the parking.
Alright, I don't have an issue with that. So, I got a common sense thing. Okay, put your signs out there, drive a car into the parking lot, now where are your signs?
You can smoke in your car, it's your car.
The other side, you know? Anyway, I don't have an issue with the number of feet, I'm just saying, whatever you do, or whatever we do, let's do something that is, enforceable, and simply enforcement for the most part means that people comply with the posting. Because we aren't going to have a smoke captain out there checking everywhere. You don't have that. But we need to be posted so people know that it's a no smoking area. I'm not trying to be funny, I'm serious. You drive up that road, you come to this parking lot, if the no smoking signs are on the other side, how do you know you're in a no smoking area? You're already within it. You catch what I'm saying? Whereas 25 feet or whatever, the end of the parking lot, you know you're in the no smoking area.
Don't take
Doesn't
long
make
train
any
to people
difference
with
to
those
me
signs at
what the
front
number
door.
of feet are, I just want to make sure that we don't have signs posted out in the middle of that field out there.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, maybe on the drive, on the way up,
Yeah, you
then
gotta.
you do no smoking,
Within
beyond
100
this
feet.
point except in designated areas.
That would be
Which-
probably a better sign on
Yeah.
the way in, puts everybody on notice.
Yeah, then everybody knows.
And then you'd have a designated area where you maybe
We can,
paint a line or something.
that's fairly simple, we can address that with a straightforward sign, I'll
Yeah,
talk
so
with our director.
we're
about
getting
it.
100
Okay.
We're getting to Disney World with the designated smoking areas, so my question is, if we are going to designate a smoking area, are we gonna put some kind of a
Canopy.
freestanding ashtray device there?
I would.
So we don't have things all over the lawn?
Yeah,
One of
it'll be
those-
the same thing that's, right outside the door here right
Yeah,
now,
we've got
it'll just
one
be
right out
moved
front.
100 feet away to,
Okay.
appropriate location.
You gotta be bigger, cigars don't.
Whatever we do, we can't promote smoking. That's the
Right.
most important part of this whole policy, is, you know, and you can, the blanketed, but we got our industrial park, which is separate from this issue. We got our walking trail, which is separate from this issue. So you basically got an issue of no smoking, and that's, you know, within 100 feet of this building, so you put a sign here and a sign down there, people ought to be able to read that. When you start designating smoking, then you're promoting smoking.
And you
And I
know,
don't think that's really what we wanna do.
I agree, no smoking in this area, let them find their area. But beyond that, the other issues you have is, we have activities on our, softball fields or whatever, I don't even know where 100 feet's trying to take us that way. But anyway, I'm happy with going to 100 feet. All I'm saying is, the distance may create us a problem and not take care of the issue that we want, which is our front steps, you know, that's all.
Well, the whole issue is, to me, no smoking on authority property, period. Period. There's no smoking on authority property. Wouldn't hurt me at all. I go to the school, I cannot smoke on their property, it doesn't bother me a bit. If I go to, down to Albany, we cannot smoke in the parks down there.
Like, you can't smoke anywhere near the Capitol buildings or
No.
court buildings, anything like that? You could do it, your policy.
We're just trying to be reasonable here, and like we're saying, 100 feet from our building, and if you wanna designate an area over there, I'm not looking to make them an area. If you wanna put the cigarette butt thing over there, go ahead, I could care less. But what the kids do out in the baseball fields and stuff like that, I don't know if we can control all that, but you can designate this area as a no smoking area, everything.
You hit it right there. I don't care what policy you come up with, it's gonna be down to enforcement. Who's gonna enforce it?
Yeah.
Okay, they just did it in the city, in the parks and all the rec stuff, and they can't enforce it.
Yeah. I just enforced a rule the other day, walking on the trail, I was telling Steve about it and Sam about it yesterday, about the dog. And I told the guy, and he went, I don't have my bag with me. I said, well, you're gonna have to go home and get it.
Yeah.
He went home, got the bag.
I walk two dogs every day, every morning, the thing in my pocket, you reach in pocket, you want a bag, you want a
Yeah.
treat, I got both.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay,
habit.
we have a resolution here,
Motion
Back
made
to-
second.
well, let's go back to
Page 16,
16,
Yes.
bullet point 2, bullet point 3 need to be crossed off.
I'm confused on what the resolution is for the smoking policy, are we just going to?
Changing 25 to 100, right? Is your
25 to
proposal,
100.
Fred?
Yeah, I just wanted to adopt that section there, but they say it's for schools, but I think it's for anybody, myself.
So,
But that's fine, 100 feet's fine.
So that would be a modification on page 27, changing 25 feet to 100 feet.
You want the designation, or the resolution to be added, do you wanna add that there will be a designated area? It's up to you.
I don't think it needs to be in your resolution, I think it's something you can
Doesn't
do
need-
if you want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
so what's the change here, we got 100 feet,
Just to 100.
25 to 100.
that's it,
25 to 100.
okay?
And we're gonna put the signs up, like Steve
Alright.
said.
We have a motion,
Almost there.
we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
Fred already made the
Okay.
Fred
motion.
made a motion,
So
you're
you
looking for a
I'll
second.
Second.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, we're over on page 34 at this point. And this is agenda item B1, is approval of a handling and storage agreement with White and Patterson Feeds. The page 35 is confidential information and contains the rates. But on page 34 is the agenda item itself. Yes, Ben? Okay, thank you. The rates, terms, and conditions, the rates are outlined in Appendix A, as I mentioned. The terms and increased percentages are outlined on page 34.
Will this be, the increases of 2 and 3% stuff, is that gonna be consistent, I mean, for other grain companies or other stuff that we have down there?
Each grain company, each salt company is negotiated on an individual basis based on what the market can bear. It's gonna be the same order of magnitude, but it is gonna be different depending on the different customer.
The bigger the customer, probably the
Okay.
better negotiating power they have. Yeah. You're gonna put 7,000 tons or 100,000 tons, I mean, you can't,
Yeah,
you treat
I was
them
gonna
both
say,
the
that's
same.
be the difference why you get a different.
Yeah, that's why you
rate.
change it.
Well, I just wanna make sure that we're gonna be
That's a good
in a
point, though,
competitive,
Yeah.
you know, I don't wanna see us go from 2 to 3% to 7 or 8% and lose that customer, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's,
Because they can afford to pay that 7 or 8, we might have to scale back a little bit to keep that customer, or entice a new customer to come in.
it's in the same general direction. Where it will vary is like also another reason would be like a 1-year contract versus a 5-year
Mhm.
contract. And those type of factors come into play.
Okay.
John, you negotiate it, I mean, what issues do you have when you do that? What's the problem?
Sometimes I think It should be consistent for everybody, but, you know, for example, a South company, if they've got 3 companies using their depot, it's too bad to put one at a competitive disadvantage when they're all bidding on the same contract. But when you're talking volumes and different volumes, I'm not getting any complaints from anybody, so,
Well, then you're okay.
yeah.
That's a good point, though. I was wondering the same thing, yeah. Go ahead, Fred.
Just, Doug, for your information, and everyone's. I did
Block my ears there.
Yeah, I did an analysis that showed what our costs are going up. We have contractual obligations, with our employees. We have, expected increases in fuel costs, expected, inflation rates and so on all of our other costs. And I put that all together for this purpose of what do we expect our costs to go up over a 3 or 5 year period. And we use that kind of as a guideline. Now, in a case of a large contract that would increase, the amount of revenue that we'd have coming in while using the same level of employment, makes that, increase our efficiencies so that we better use our labor and our equipment. So, that's why some can vary. If we're going to increase our volume to the point where, our efficiencies make it so it costs us less to load, cause we're loading more trucks with the same number of people, the same amount of equipment, then our cost per ton goes down. Of course, it goes down for everything, but still, that's why they sometimes can vary if we're increasing volume a lot. But we do have, something put together that indicates what we think our costs are going up if our business stays at a level pace.
So you guys coordinate exactly what
Yes.
we can afford to bid or not to bid.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good, that's a good point.
Then it is negotiated from there, but John and Wade and Steve are aware of where our costs are heading
Yeah.
according to the obligations that we have.
Any mo- Steve?
No question, no.
You have a motion?
I'll move.
Steve,
Second.
second Doug, any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up over on page 36, there's a typo here, and you'll see the same typo over on
B2, eh?
page 41. And that's where it says B1, it should say B2. That's a minor discrepancy, but an important one in the grand scheme of things. The agenda item on page 36 is designation of surplus property. The next 2 resolutions are related but need to be dealt with separately. Parcels B2 through M at the port are defined as the area to the south of the access road and to the north of the 4th Street residence. And you can see the parcels shown in the map on page 40A. Parcels B2 through M. The authority doesn't have any use for these parcels. These parcels are now not contiguous with the port, and it's a recommendation that we brought before the facilities committee that we designate these as surplus property for disposition.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Comment I would make is, this has really been a very fluid situation here with the city, with the residents and Wade and everybody negotiating all these type of things, whatever, and putting this together. I think it's turned out to be a very favorable exchange of doing the things that's for us to dispose of this property. So I think, I had issues in my own mind that we have property lines all over the place, but now all of a sudden we have a common property line all the way down through, so obviously this is turned out very favorable for both parties, so all parties.
Wade, the parcels that have not been sold yet, Huh?
They're
Also-
also,
They're also?
Yeah, they're also,
yep.
the,
My map, some of it was,
yeah,
okay.
last page,
Yep,
and
I
we'll
got the
talk
last
about
page.
that next at the next item, which you
Some
can see,
people bought more than one.
who has what for purchase offers.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Did you change the B one to B two in this book? Did you tell them about it?
Yes, I mentioned that at the opening here. that-
Okay. So B one becomes B two
Yep, on both
on both
resolutions.
resolutions.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye? You? Cup?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes,
Yes, aye.
I'm sorry, my mind was
I probably should
trying to
say,
answer a question.
any of those opposed, but obviously when I hear all the positive, I know.
Now, the second part is over on page 41. Once we've designated something as surplus property, we can dispose of it per the policy. The authority has been negotiating with several different landowners that are adjacent to the property. And as you can see on page 41A, you can see the various parties in the negotiated purchase offer. In the page 41, you can see the sales price, and this resolution would approve the purchase offers. Just about all the paperwork is in. We're still waiting for, I think Frank, you've got a couple things that need to be done in terms of wrapping up the sale, but everything is substantially in at this
Like-
point.
Doing all the deed work so we can give it to them. Now, the question, you can vote on resolution, I just have a mechanical question about the
I make a motion to approve the resolution as presented here.
I second.
I think the only comment I would make is that, just for people who haven't followed the process, what happened was the value of the property was assessed by the city, and we took each lot by square foot, so nobody got a deal or whoever got their property or had a chance to negotiate, everything was dealt by per square foot, and that's how the value of the property was made out. So I think that's, should be publicly known that, that there was no, bidding, bargaining, whatever it wanna be, that's how we came to the property
There was
price.
no, that's an excellent point, and I'm glad you raised it, thank you. It was valued at 10 cents a square foot. The number of square feet were outlined specifically for each of the parcels, and it was a very simple matter from that point.
Yeah.
And your policy allows and state law allows that you can negotiate as long as you get market value. You don't have to put it out to bid as long as you get market value.
And that's
we
what
went-
it was.
And we
Everybody
did the
was
market value thing before we decided to go
Yeah.
forward. So,
And I personally, 3 of the new property owners are very happy with the way things turned out. And they actually commended the OBPA for how things were
Good.
handled. They were worried at first and very pleased at the end, so that's what matters.
That's good, thanks, Lou. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Question-
Yes.
Question on mechanics and has nothing to do with the board, just wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 couples bought more than one parcel. Do they want separate deeds or a deed? They're gonna double up their expenses if they get separate deeds.
They wanted individual parcels as per the map. I did
Separate.
ask that question for the folks that were looking at buying more than one.
Thank you.
Now, I wanna make sure what Frank just said. We're providing them with the deeds.
We're gonna provide them with 3 documents, or 4 documents for each parcel. A deed, a real property tax report, and a gains tax affidavit, plus correspondence and duplicate from Wade saying we're exempt from local zoning, so it can get recorded. So those 4 documents, there's 12 properties, there'll be 12 sets of those documents.
But that's at our cost.
That's our cost.
Okay, thank
And
you,
then-
that's all I wanna know.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring them, and they're gonna be shipped back over here.
Yep.
And Wade and his staff are gonna have them, and be signed by him, signed by Ford Notary right here. The other people are gonna have to come in, pay the price, and take their property. It's gonna be up to them to record it. We're not gonna record the 12 deeds, it's gonna cost you, it's a small fortune. I don't think it's your obligation.
Okay. No, my other question is, Wade, we talked about this.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, we talked about this, and I wanna make sure it's clear here. that, it's up to them to record all that stuff.
That's correct, the obligation is on them to record.
The other thing was, is we indicated to those folks, if somebody needed a year, then we would allow that.
Yes, that's correct, and about half of them will be taking the payment plan option, at which point, at the end of the payment plan, we would, transfer title, correct?
Yeah, I don't, until you, usually, I would hold the property until they finish paying for it.
Right, that's what I'm
all.
saying.
But it can be signed, it can be held in escrow by them,
Right.
by us,
By
and then
us.
go from there.
And I just wanted to fall back for the board knows, if something falls out of that group that's bought this property, then we'll revert back to what the policy was. Whoever's touching that property will have the option to buy that
But
property.
we'll be back in the market if they don't follow through.
Right, but it's going back on the market to the landowners that's adjacent to it. I mean, that's the way we said it, and then, if no one was to bid on it, for instance, I'm just just wanted to talk about it, if it's B lot, and she touches it and Don touches it, and they don't want it, then it can go to the group of landowners. They can jump, is what I'm saying.
Cause they'll have access, cause we own
Right.
a right of way at the very bottom of the strip, so there's access to all the lots.
Right.
From whatever that street is, Ward Street?
Wall Street.
Wall Street, yeah.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to do, is make sure I was clear on that, I didn't wanna see the people get a bill.
There is a need for executive session.
Well, there will be a need for executive session, will be action out of that?
If
Yes or
there
no?
is action, we will notify the press at
Okay,
that time.
Okay.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Specifically, the reason is, matters leading to the appointment of a corporation.
I have a motion, to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Doug, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Think about a 5-minute break here. Okay, let the record show that it's now 12:35, we just came out of the executive session, and we're gonna reconvene, and, Wade, I'll let you, introduce,
Other such matters, C1, approval of contract with McFarland Johnson. This is for a special project at Ogdensburg International Airport, and McFarland Johnson has provided a proposal to the authority for the terminal expansion and runway extension feasibility study. This establishes design criteria, provides conceptual layouts and environmental screening in support of the expansion. The cost for these services is $89,283.
well, we want some discussion, or do you want to, somebody wanna make a motion, or what do you wanna do?
I'll move that.
Okay, I have a
I'll
motion,
second it.
seconded by Steve. Discussion? I would like to, to say this in regards to what's going on here for the press, whatever. This, all we're trying to do in this particular situation is to look at what are the possibilities for the Ogdensburg Airport. And we picked a firm that is very aggressive. We're still working with CNS, we're still doing the other type of things, but this particular part of the project, at $89,000 is to investigate the situation that we have right now and what we can do with our airport. And that's exactly it is. Some of the things that are in concern here is environmental. That concern is to see what environmentally, the possibilities of some things that can happen here. And the other thing is what, I guess I can say is, what the capabilities this airport can do if we extend the runway. And, or if we can or cannot, and, that's exactly where we're at. We have some other concerns in regard to this study, cause other things need to have happened, for anything to go further than what the feasibility study says. So after the feasibility study, it looks to me that the timetable for the press, it looks like September, Brian? In September, we have a pretty good idea in September, exactly.
Are we done?
What? Yes, when the feasibility study will be done.
Okay.
We'll know exactly in September. I think that's the timetable that, we understand at this point in time, so there's really no news other than we're just looking to see what the airport can do or can't do, and we'll know, in September. And this is the firm we're gonna hire. So, any other further discussion, whatever? We're still in discussion part of the motion, Brian. Any further discussion? Okay,
You want a roll call vote?
let's do a roll call vote, just for purposes, whatever.
Mr. Loeffler,
Yes.
Mr. Barlow,
Yes.
Mr. Hooper,
Yes.
Ms. Breen,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
and Mr. Lamacha.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Wait, is any other further business in regards to anything else, or are we all set?
We are all set.
All set? I wanna thank the board for taking their, nice day off here in northern New York. We don't get many of them, but, this one was a blessed day. Hopefully we still get to enjoy the rest of the day. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.